Today I'm going to get right into it. Before I get to the book of Acts, where we're going to be in Acts chapter 3, I kind of want to rewind a little bit, and I want to go to Matthew chapter 17. It says, when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire, into the water, and I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. You unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied. How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private, and they asked, why couldn't we drive it out? And Jesus replied, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. I begin today with this story for a reason, because I think that we can all relate to the disciples in that moment. We are not Jesus. And we can also probably, most of us, realize what it means to fail in our faith, fail in our walk with God, and then to look at God and say, what is going on? And that's kind of where the disciples found themselves, but they don't stay there. Jesus says to them that there's going to come a time where nothing is impossible for you. Does that mean that all of a sudden the disciples are going to be like Superman? Jesus is going to show them, he's going to walk a life that shows complete and total surrender to God. And after he walks out of the tomb, they'll spend at least 40 days with him walking, talking, and eating together. And then they will see him ascend and go right back to heaven to sit at his Father's right hand. But before he does that, before he ascends, he gives them a command and a promise. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and the ends of the earth. So the promise that Jesus leaves them is you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And this isn't the first time that Jesus has made this promise to the disciples. In John chapter 14, starting in verse 11, it says, believe me when I say to you that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. And Jesus is talking about the miracles that he's performed. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. And if you love me, keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Before long, the world will not see me anymore, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will realize that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. Whoever has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them. Then Judas said, but Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world? And Jesus replies, anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. Anyone who does not love me will not obey my teachings. And these words you hear are not my own. They belong to the Father who has sent me. All this I've spoken while still with you, Jesus says. But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Up to this point, where did they need to go to interact with God? They had to go to the temple because God dwelled in the Holy of Holies. And so if you wanted to connect with God, you had to go to a building. You had to go to a temple. And Jesus is saying there's a day coming when God will no longer dwell in the temple, or at least not that temple. And Jesus is saying that God will dwell with you and even in you. And so when Jesus is talking to the disciples before he ascends, and he says that the Holy Spirit will come upon you and a great power will be given to you. It's a great shift in the way that humanity interacts with God. And so when you look at Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 4, it says, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place, and suddenly a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. And they saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. And all of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. In Acts chapter 2, in those first 4 verses, you see something happen in this moment, that fire comes. It says it like sits on their heads. And it's a symbol, a showing of the power of God coming upon them. So he says, this is my promise. And in that moment, the promise is fulfilled. And then the command was to be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Now the command part, their end of the deal, has to happen. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, it says, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? Do we realize that? Like there isn't a magical building that we have to go to anymore to connect with God. That the Holy Spirit dwells in us, that God dwells within us, a personal relationship beyond walls and doors, that God's in us.
Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out that video. If you want to see more from us, you can like and subscribe. We'll be posting more stuff every week. If you want to connect with us, you can check us out on our socials or on our website, Marlborochristian.com, where we'll have more information about what we have coming up. Thank you guys again for checking out that video. We'll see you in the next one.